I am a firm believer that as of right now, the Sony ZV-E1 right here is the best hybrid camera that you can get and use for your real estate photography business, and I'll tell you why. So I bought the ZV-E1 3 months ago-ish, 4 months ago, maybe not even that much. And this camera is fantastic. So if you don't know, the ZV-E1 uses the same sensor as the A7S III and the FX3, but in a much smaller, much cheaper. The Sony ZV-E1 does take 12 megapixel photos. It's got a 12 megapixel sensor on it, but that might seem low, but it's really not when you take into consideration of where these materials are actually going to be showcased. They're going to be on the MLS, they're going to be on social media. They're not typically going to be blown up into these crazy big, pictures on the wall or billboards or whatever. And billboards, funnily enough, usually those have like a crazy low megapixel count because they're viewed from so far away. But all that to say, the Sony ZV-E1 packs a whole lot of punch into a very small package. So I'm currently filming on a Sony a6600, which I wish I could, pull this off and show you side by side. But the ZV-E1 is barely bigger than an A6000 series camera. So I know like the A6000 is slightly like thinner than the A6400, 6500, 6600, especially the 6700. But when you compare this next to your standard full frame camera, which it is a full frame camera, it is substantially smaller, substantially lighter. So with these photos being 12 megapixels and being perfectly fine for the MLS and perfectly fine for social media, you might feel like it's a little bit lackluster because sure, you can't crop in like crazy and you'll lose resolution if you do that. But when you think about what real estate photography is and the type of gear that's required for it, you need wide. You need as wide as you can to showcase everything in the room. You're never gonna be cropping in, really. Like you might crop in a little bit to like remove the sides of like a door jamb so you don't see the door jamb on the side, or crop something out. But it's very, very, very small because you wanna maintain the same, as much as possible, the wide field of view. So the Sony ZV-E1 takes fantastic photos. I'm gonna just kind of cycle through these photos here while I'm talking and just talk about the photos for a second. It has all the same bracketing technology, so I think you can shoot up to, I'll just tell you while I have you right here. So in the drive mode of the ZV-E1, you can go up to 3.0 EV5. So it takes super, super dark and then 3 stops up. It takes another photo, 3 stops up, another photo. So the dynamic range would be absolutely nuts on this camera. And it's good enough. Like they're sharp photos. Like I said, sure, the resolution might not be that crazy because it's a 12 megapixel camera, but it takes really, really good photos and it's consistent, it's quality, it's a great camera. I'm trying to like figure out things to talk about when it comes to this camera because it's a camera that you use for real estate photography. It's gonna work. It's a full frame sensor, so if you slap a 16 millimeter on here, like I have the 16 to 35 millimeter f2.8 G Master lens, you're gonna get the full 16 millimeters. Whereas if you use an APS-C camera, you might need to get like a 10 to 18 to get a 15 to 27 millimeter field of view, whatever. But the full frame sensor is really, really nice. So it handles noise quite beautifully. So if you're the type of lazy shooter that likes to bump up the ISO to something like 2000 so that your shutter clicks aren't as slow and you don't care about a little bit of noise, this honestly probably won't have any noise noticeable in it at all. It's a fantastic sensor. It's everything that the FX3 and the A7S III has, but in a smaller and cheaper package. So there are some downsides that I was very nervous about picking up this camera before I ended up using it in the video aspect. People complained like crazy of this camera overheating. My workflow for the longest time until I figured out a better way is, I would take a video clip and then I would stop filming and I would move to the next room, stop filming, or start filming, take the next clips, stop, move on to the next one, the next one, so on and so forth. And that worked out. So I was like, well, I'm not too concerned with the potential overheating because if I'm not taking a bunch of clips at any given time, then it's not going to overheat because I'm not going to be filming for 30 minutes. But in this camera, which has not overheated on me one time, I just filmed 2 YouTube videos on it that totaled out to like 30 minutes of continual recording, whatever, no overheating problems whatsoever. Sure, I have a fan on, but it's not particularly cold in here. It's just, I don't know, 70 degrees in here or something like that. and no overheating at all. And then on my listing videos, what I've been doing now, because I figured out the white balance, I actually mapped, so I have auto white balance on, but then I mapped this little button to lock the white balance, so it's a white balance toggle. So to prevent shifting, I'll get the white balance that I like and then lock it by pressing this button, and then I move and continue to do the shot, and then when I want to release it to, you know, find the next white balance, I just press that button again. So I'm just continually recording. I don't stop recording on this. So listing videos I'm pretty quick about. I'm not gonna be filming for 45 minutes. I can get everything done probably less than 30 minutes. Typically I'm around like 20 minutes, something like that. But continual recording, and this is the best. I'm doing XAVC-S 4K, and then the, you know, the movie settings that I have, it's, you know, the highest quality you can do. It's 140M 422 10-bit color depth. So it's not like I'm recording less quality, and then that's why it's not overheating. I'm putting it through the ringer, and I'm putting it through its paces, and it's doing a fantastic job. The only like downsides that I would see about using this particular camera is if you shoot flash ambient. Because it does not have a mechanical shutter, the ZV-E1 can only flash sync as fast as 1/30th of a second. So it's not going to be ideal for flash ambient users. And I actually I ordered a Sony a7 IV specifically to start doing flash ambient photography again, because a client of mine, it requires it. $40 million homes it requires it. Accurate colors, all that stuff. It's gonna be a pain, but I'm getting paid more for the photo, so I'm not too concerned about it. But when I slapped on my wireless trigger onto this camera and then started playing around with the flash, I was like, I can't go slower than 1/30th. What's going on? So you have banding and all this stuff. So this is not the camera for you if you shoot flash. If this was your only camera and you're shooting HDR and you want to get really good quality listing videos, for 1,800 bucks I bought this for, used off of Reddit. That's hard to beat, man. It's an FX3 A7S III, you know, stripped back some of the things that people say it overheats because it doesn't have the cooling that the FX3 does. And after the 40 minutes of recording or 30 minutes of recording or whatever, it was a little warm, but it didn't stop on me. It didn't shut down. It didn't give me a warning. It didn't give me anything. So it's a fantastic camera. I highly recommend it. I honestly do. The ZV-E1, especially paired with the 16 to 35 millimeter G Master lens. Oh my God. I mean, the video that I get from it is fantastically sharp. So I shoot everything in S-Log3. I overexpose it by 1.7 stops, and I slap on a LUT that I have that is a film emulation LUT, so it's super desaturated. It's this really cool thing, and then I boost the saturation all the way up, and it comes out really, really nice. That's what you're seeing here. It's hard to beat this, man, for the dollar amount, where if you're taking photos and you're taking video and you just want one camera to do it all, ZV-E1, man. You know, potentially if you live in a hot place like Texas or Florida or Georgia or whatever, where it gets really, really hot outside, then it might be a bigger problem, the overheating. Maybe this is just a dependent thing, but this, like I said, this has not overheated once. Granted, it's not 80 degrees where I live. Like it gets 70 degrees, 74 degrees. Like it's pretty cool. It's not super hot. So maybe that plays a part, but the house that I shot, you're seeing a bunch of clips for, all the heaters were on in that house. There were like 4 fireplaces that were all going. The heater for it was abysmally hot inside that godforsaken beautiful house. So it might have been 84 degrees inside that house when I was filming, and it still didn't even hiccup at all. So I don't know. I'm thoroughly impressed with it. I was really worried, like I said, before I got it, that it was gonna overheat like crazy, because all these YouTubers are saying, oh, the Sony ZV-E1 overheats like crazy. I haven't encountered any of that. I think it's a great camera. I really, for 1,800 bucks, I don't think you can go wrong. In my case, because I have to start shooting flash ambient, I did pick up an a7 IV, like I mentioned. So this is going to be my video camera moving forward, and I'm going to keep it for my listing videos, my YouTube videos, that kind of stuff. I don't want to get rid of it. I could sure just use the a7 IV for the listing videos and the YouTube videos and just have the one camera, but I don't want to sell it. I want to keep the ZV-E1. I like it too much. the way that everything's laid out, I mean, you have, photo mode, and then in the middle you have video mode, and then all the way to the right you have S and Q, which will film in either 60 frames per second or 120 frames per second, and then render it to 30 frames per second, so you don't even have to do that in your timeline. The 422 10-bit color depth in the flat color profile is absolutely beautiful. I don't really have any complaints about this camera. I don't, none at all. It's great. So if you're looking for a fantastic hybrid Sony camera or just hybrid camera in general to do both your photos and your video with impeccable quality for your real estate photography business, I recommend this. If you want to pick one up, use the link below because I can get a couple dollars at no cost to you. Thank you. See you in the next one. Goodbye.